Hey guys, in this video I'd like to give you a little update on some packages that have arrived recently. First up, my order from Matt Electronics has arrived with some speaker rebuilding materials. Primarily some cones. I got some 10-inch and some 8-inch. 10-inch, it turns out, are a little bit too small for the larger speaker. But that's alright, because if you recall, the original cone for this is in pretty decent shape, so I think I'll just reuse it. Problem is, the outer edge of this just isn't quite as wide as the original. If it was another inch in diameter, I think it'd be perfect. Smaller ones, though, I was quite surprised, are almost a perfect fit. Just a tad too large. If I just trimmed a little bit off around the edge, it'd fit in there perfectly. And the depth looks to be darn near perfect, too. Plenty of springiness. In fact, it might be a little bit too much give to it. At least it seems a lot springier than the original. However, I'm a little leery of destroying the original cone to get the voice coil and spider out, so I'm going to stick with my thought of remounting the original cone back in there, warts and all, and seeing how it sounds. If it sounds absolutely horrible, then maybe I will go ahead and install the other cone. If it sounds pretty good, I'll leave it in there for now. Because I think I'd like to cut my teeth on speaker rebuilding with another speaker I've got that's just completely annihilated. It looks just like this. I don't have the spider, I don't have the voice coil, I don't have the cone, I got nothing except a good field coil and a frame. So I ordered up some voice coils, and I know these will fit into this speaker. I'm hoping they fit into the other speaker as well, which is also a Philco speaker, but from a year or two prior, or a year or two older than this one. And I think I'll just try fabricating my own spider from scratch. We'll see how that goes. But I got nothing else to lose with that speaker, so I'd like to screw around with that one first. As you can see, I've got these primered. Now I've got some Bondo glazing putty to fill in all the nasty rust pits. I'll sand that down after these set up for about another 24 hours. Then I'm going to paint them. Haven't decided what I want to go with first. I've kind of narrowed it down to these two candidates. I got some smoke gray enamel or some metallic brushed nickel, I believe this is. Alright, while I was placing my order, I also picked up a couple other things. I got this high voltage putty. Seems like it might be useful to seal leaks and flybacks in the future. I think it'll be quicker and easier than using this RTV silicone. And I got some contact cement. I think will work well on speakers to bond the cones to the outer rim. And I am almost done screwing around with the output transformer that mounts onto this speaker. Pretty well gotten rid of all the rust, and I got it primered up. But what I'm thinking about now is, instead of reusing this original frame, which keeps these plates tightly together and gives you some ears to mount to the speaker frame, is to salvage one from something else, because this is pretty badly pitted. And in particular, this bend here is quite weakened. I think if I flex this a few more times, this may just break right off. And that needs to be pretty strong, as I said, to hold this all together. So I'm thinking, well, geez, I got plenty of transformers lying around. I can just harvest one from one of those. But I haven't found one that's the right size yet. This was a very promising candidate, but not quite right. It's a little bit too big. So the challenge is for me to find one that fits that I don't care about. I don't want to trash a good transformer just for this. There's another one that was a possible candidate. These are both vertical output transformers. I've pulled out of TVs. So I'll go hunting in the attic and dig around some old chassis and hopefully come up with something. Something else that's just arrived is some grill cloth that I think will work out quite nicely in the Stromberg Carlson TV12. It's not identical to the original, but it's pretty darn close. I think the original had a bit more gold and a bit less red, but a very similar swirly abstract pattern to it. I got this off of eBay from a grill cloth shop. It's not real grill cloth, though. As some of you may know, the supply of grill cloth, reproduction grill cloth, has just dried up. I guess the one manufacturer that was making it no longer does, and remaining stocks quickly got snapped up. So what this is more conventional cloth, maybe from like Joann Fabrics or something. So it's a bit heavier than real grill cloth, but I think it'll work out fine. I bought a bit more than I need because I am not very adept at installing grill cloth, so I figure I'll screw up once or twice. I got plenty of it. Stuff's in here now is like plastic, like stuff you'd use in a guitar amplifier or something. So when I get this up on the bench at some point, and the chassis out of the cabinet, I'll get in there and rip this stuff out and try installing this. And finally, what I think will be the most interesting segment in this video. I was poking around on eBay a couple weeks ago and noticed there were quite a few interesting cathode ray tubes, so I bid on a few. Now, some I didn't win. One in particular, I'm still going to keep my eyes out for, because I noticed there have been a few of them that have sold in recent months. I think it was a Raytheon. I forget the exact number, but what it is it's a variation on a camera tube that has a metal plate inside etched with all the letters of the alphabet and numbers 0 through 9, and I think some punctuation marks. And what those are used for is they can generate characters that can be superimposed, like subtitles, in live broadcasts, I think. Similar to monoscopes that are used to generate test patterns. Something else that I thought I was going to get, but the seller can't find in the warehouse, was an 8NP4. I believe that's in the same family as the 3NP4, which is a projection tube, 3-inch picture tube that runs on very high voltage, that was used in early projection sets like 47, 48, that could project an image at the time which was remarkably large, like 24, 28, maybe 32 inches diagonal. Well, I had no idea there was an 8-inch version of that ran on something like 100,000 volts at 2 milliamps, like 2,000 watts of power, and it could project onto a screen the size of a movie theater screen. Had to be air cooled, and it was quite an interesting device. Well, unfortunately, like I said, they couldn't find it. They thought they had a few in stock, but they did have these two guys in stock, which I got. Get to those in a moment, but first I'll pull this one out. This is a 3WP1, which was made by RCA and used in one of their more compact little 3-inch oscilloscopes. I hope to get one of those someday. But in the meantime, I just have a cathode ray tube that goes with it. Got it for a reasonable price, and it's one that I don't have. I've been slowly building up a collection of cathode ray tubes, and this would make a nice addition to it. And also, it's in fantastic condition. Except for the base. It was cracked and somebody slopped a bunch of epoxy on it, but otherwise, that getter looks pristine, and as does the face. These are cool because they have an extremely flat face. And when I looked at the data sheet for this, it turns out that these were not just any old oscilloscope cathode ray tube. These are precision cathode ray tubes, made to rather exacting specifications for the time. So, for example, the horizontal and vertical deflection plates are 90 degrees apart, plus minus 1 degree. which I guess was quite good tolerance for CRTs of the time. Now, quite opposite to that is what's in these boxes, or at least that's what I hope is in these boxes. These are from an outfit that I wasn't aware of. I guess they've been around for a while, and they just sell cathode ray tubes. They have thousands and thousands and thousands in stock. However, they don't have TV picture tubes, or very few. Nothing that I could use. They do have some industrial cathode ray tubes, and some for early computer type monitors like amber monochrome displays. But recently, they, to use their terms, I think that they opened up the vaults, and they're selling some really early cathode ray tubes. And these are two of the earliest ever made. These were used in some of the very first oscilloscopes that ever hit the market. This should be a 5-inch, and this should be a 9-inch. And I'm hoping these are the early production runs, especially this one. Because if it is, I think it should be rather interesting looking. I'm a little leery that they ship these UPS because I'm having some bad luck with. Actually, I've always had bad luck with UPS, but especially lately, I've had some cathode ray tubes destroyed in shipping. I was hoping that these were the original boxes, but they are not. Still, I like the way they pack these. That's kind of nifty. So first I just saw the box, and we got some bubble wrap. But inside of it, they must, since they do a lot of cathode ray tubes, they must have had these blocks made of foam with concentric rings that they can pop out. So they got this one around the base, and then inside they knocked out the holes to put around CRT. So, wow. Yeah, sure looks like I thought it would. Check this out. That is what a very early CRT looked like. What's cool about these is there's no internal aquedag coating or conductive coating. Actually, the external coating is aquedag. The internal coating, I don't think it really has a name. So without that coating, I think you can see quite readily how the deflection plates work, especially since, unlike later CRTs where they would run the connections to the deflection plates down inside and then run wires out to the base, in this, the deflection plates are attached to lugs right around the perimeter of the CRT. So you connect, say, your vertical signal to these two, your horizontal to these two. As the electron beam comes out the gun, gets deflected one way and gets deflected the other way, then it hits the phosphor coating and glows. So if this stuff comes out, yeah, that's quite nice. Boy, that's in phenomenal condition. This was made in the 30s, so to be this pristine is quite remarkable. Curious, no markings whatsoever. Oh no, well, it's got a 905, but I don't see any indication of a manufacturer. There's nothing on the base. And then this is obviously a more modern label that was added. Now, I don't have an oscilloscope from the 30s that this might have gone with, but someday maybe I can get my hands on one. In the meantime, this, I think, makes a fantastic display device, display tube. No, this one doesn't have the nice foam block. It's just crunched up paper packing material. Tell you what, I wouldn't mind contacting the company just to see if they have some of these CRT boxes to sell. So I got plenty of CRTs with no boxes. Getting this Alright, this one looks to also be in very good condition, but this one's a little bit newer. I kind of suspected it might be because it's 914A. The original probably was just 914. What this is the big brother of the other one. Similar, basically the same vintage. This one does have the original base on it. RCA Radiotron 914A. Same deal, used in oscilloscopes, has the deflection plates around here, but this one has the internal coating. It's probably why there's one more lead on the base than the other one has too. One of those wires will come up to this internal coating, which is a better design. This internal coating is actually at a high potential, and it helps pull the electron beam towards the front and keep it focused. But also means you can't see the inner workings so well. You get a little bit of a clear window around where the leads come in, because of course they don't want this to make any contact with that internal conductive coating, so they block out an area around them. Now this wasn't used in much. When I did a little Googling on 914, oh wow. I hope the camera picked that up. Maybe I can make it happen again. I'll turn the lights off. It's an effect I've seen before that I kind of forgot about. What's happening is I got little static discharges. I'm pulling this plastic off, which is making the phosphor glow green. Helps in the winter with the dry air too. I'll turn off the last bit of light in here. It's me stepping on bubble wrap. I really hope that's getting picked up. It's really cool. I don't know if I can just rub the plastic on there. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. I don't know how that charge built up on there. Might have been in shipping or something. Oh wow. Try rubbing that plastic again. I think what might be happening is my one hand is making contact with those deflection plate lugs. I don't know quite how it's discharging. I think it's discharging through my other hand through the deflection plates. Alright, so I was saying, when I did a little research online, I found that there was a Dumont oscilloscope that seemed to be used for demonstration, like classroom purposes, that use this. You don't see many 9-inch oscilloscopes. 7 are pretty rare too, but I did encounter one RCA 7-inch. Most were 5 and 3-inch. Alright. Oh, I didn't even notice that. So scratch what I said about there being a connection down here for the internal coating. It's up here. I thought some of you might be curious to know if these CRTs were actually any good, so I dug up the data for the 905 and rigged up a test as best I could using my Suncor CR70 and an external power supply. So it runs on 2.5 volts at 2.1 amps, which I was able to do with the Suncor. I also rigged up cathode grid 1, grid 2. And then there's one left, which is the anode, which should run on hundreds, if not thousands of volts. For that, I use this external power supply, which only goes up to 100 volts. But at least it was enough to, A, tell me the filament's good, so you can see that glowing nicely down in there. And I do get a bit of a faint green glow. Hope the camera can pick that up. It's not very bright by any means, but I can see some green illumination. And it does move a little bit if I touch the deflection leads. So, one of these days if I come across a more powerful power supply or hack up a scope or something, I can actually power that up. But for now, this will have to do. So, as I was explaining before, this is kind of neat that you can see the innards here. Now you can actually see it operating. So there's the electron gun down in there. And here's that, what should be the second anode at a much higher potential. And then here's the deflection plates. Also discovered that the shipping foam blocks also make a very handy holder for testing this thing out. Well, that'll be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this look at some very early CRTs and an update on my Philco 15DX speakers.